Teachers, for example, are a laughably hypocritical bunch. How, at the age of 17, can you dare to declare an education major? How, when you're a mere 4 years into puberty with no real-world adult life experience, can you decide you have the wisdom and experience to teach future generations? And how utterly pointless is it that you spent all this time in school to not spend any time in the real world, but merely, after a 4-year college degree, go back to the same system to regurgitate what you heard a mere short 4 years before from equally worthless teachers? The truth is, the majority of teachers are not worldly experienced adults, but lazy adult children who fear math, rigor, and hard work. They mask their ulterior motive for an easy job with summers off behind the noble cause of educating the children. But no matter how much they cowardly hide behind the children, their true intentions still bleed through in the classroom, and all students, smart or not, suffer. With no real-world experience, their lack of passion for anything in life saps the life out of what would have otherwise been very interesting subjects. With no work ethic, they don't take the time to consider how to keep their students motivated or interested because, well, that would take effort. And as they age, their disdain for their students becomes ever more apparent as they become bitter, indifferent, and vindictive. The result is an environment that is once again more a prison than a vessel for learning. Of course, none of this is improved with the ever-increasing bloat and overhead of non-teaching staff. Diversity counselors, vice principals, reverse vice principals, nutrition directors, freshman coaches, JV coaches, varsity coaches, and let's not forget tap and jazz instructors. The fact that spending per pupil, adjusting for inflation, has increased 5-fold in the past 5 decades, but with no significant increase in the academic performance of students, is undeniable proof that the primary purpose of the education system is not the children, but an employment vehicle for some of the country's most worthless and talentless individuals. And the parents! Ah, yes, the parents. The dirty little secret is, most parents value themselves more than their children. And while they'll claim they had children under equally fabricated, altruistic reasons, the truth is they had children first and foremost for themselves. Thus, for most modern parents, after 6 months of constantly having to monitor their infants, they tire of it, wanting nothing more than to outsource their child rearing so they can get back to what truly matters in their lives: themselves. Their careers, master's degrees, nail appointments, happy hours, and the daytime social clubs all, sadly, trump children in the real world. You mix these ingredients together: an outdated education system designed to mass-produce obedient workers, a talentless teaching staff incentivized by money and laziness, not educating the children, an administration that further profiteers off educating the children, and indifferent parents who don't care about their children's education. And what you ultimately have is nothing that approaches an education system, let alone one that allows truly intelligent kids to reach their potential. You have an over-bureaucratized, overstaffed, and overly expensive babysitting operation used to house otherwise unemployable children during the daytime, so their parents can pursue their vanity while an entire industry of talentless charlatans make $500 billion a year off the child chattel. It is nothing short of prison for all children, but it is mental torture for those who are abnormally intelligent. The 13-year prison sentence. I had an interesting observation the last day of my compulsory K-12 education. There we were, waiting for the final bell to ring, and when it did, the entire senior class went wild. They ran for their lockers, grabbed whatever it was they may have left in there, banged on the tables and benches of the adjacent cafeteria, all screaming and yelling as they made for the door. It was as if the Allies had liberated Auschwitz, and none of us would ever return to that hellhole again. So tell me, what kind of system evokes such a visceral hatred and desire to escape it? Be it your senior year or just the last day of school when you were chomping at the bit to get out for summer vacation, no child, and I mean no child, liked school. This was the odd insight I had, because why wouldn't you like school? Why did this 13-year experience have to be so torturous and painful? Why did it feel like we were in prison? Why couldn't learning be fun? Why couldn't you make school a place young children would want to go, and one that they'd hate to leave, perhaps crying when it was over instead of celebrating its end? The answer, as pretended before, is because school is not intended for children, and is thus a literal prison for them. When you take the U.S. education system for what it is in its entirety, there is simply no denying that it is the epitome of child abuse, and arguably the largest crime against humanity. You are taking the most innocent of people, children, who have neither agency nor command in their lives, and compelling them to go to a place that is not designed for them, but rather others. Worse, you are robbing them of their childhood, where 13 years of their youth will be pissed away on rote rehearsal, a subservience to others, and conformity culminating in a laughable facade called education. But whereas the majority of children do indeed view school for what it is, a prison, school is a particularly purified form of torture for those with a high IQ. Most students can at least adapt to the pure averageness and lowest common denominator traits of school. Some even thrive. But for those students who are true geniuses, school is the 10th and extra special added bonus level of hell. The teachers are dunces. First, you have society's least intelligent adults teaching our most intelligent students. This is due to the fact that education majors and teachers tend to have the lowest IQs out of all college majors. Admittedly, some are smarter, some are dumber, but it's laughable to have an adult who is less knowledgeable and less intelligent than their high IQ students teaching out of a book and a scripted lesson plan, trying to pass that off as wisdom, knowledge, and education. Unfortunately, it's worse, as most genius students don't even know their teachers are for the most part a bunch of dunces. A third grader doesn't know their teachers are intellectually inferior people, only that they're adults and therefore superior. This misjudgment is the cause of a certain level of insanity, as the child's intellectual superiority at times runs contrary to the authority of their teacher. Alas, the student could be right on a misgraded paper, a philosophical line of reasoning, a political debate, or some other aspect of education, but if the teacher doesn't agree with him, doesn't know the answer himself, or frankly just doesn't like the kid, the student is punished, marked down, or told they're wrong. This not only impairs the child's education, but is maddening for some students, as what they know in their minds to be logical, truthful, and real is being rebuked by their teachers. It's not until they're older do they realize their teachers were wrong about potentially scores of things, and the 10 years of confusion they suffered was completely unnecessary. The lack of passion. The second drawback, which is related to teachers' intellectual inferiority, is that they lack the passion to make their presumed specialty interesting. I personally have taught both salsa dance classes and economics classes, and though one may obviously be more interesting than the other, it was my passion for both that made all my students equally interested, even excited about both. Your average teacher, however, with an average IQ of 102 and a complete abhorrence of work, rigor, discipline, and excellence, cannot possibly breathe the same level of passion, intrigue, and curiosity into their students' minds than a legitimate professional who absolutely loves their field. Furthermore, with no genuine mastery of the subject or real-world experience, most teachers are theoreticians, Monday morning quarterbacks, and academics. They merely got a 4-year education degree, avoided a real job in the real world at all costs, bringing nothing of experience, practicality, interest, or real life into the classroom. This results in an instruction style that can best be described as going through the motions, and thus, like Ben Stein in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, all of the students are falling asleep. Alas, it is not the topic that puts most students to sleep, but the lack of passion and practicality in the teacher that does. Still, this doesn't change the fact that the students aren't learning anything. If you think about it, nearly every topic can be made to be interesting. That is the job of the teacher. But if your teachers went into education because it's easy and summer's off, you can expect all your students to fight to stay awake in class, the high IQ ones particularly torturedly so. Rotten apples ruin the lot. Third, while brilliant children are fighting to stay awake, let's not also forget another huge hindrance to their education: special ed, or problem students. By lobbing the brilliant in with the average, you can expect a certain amount of efficiency loss, as the brilliant must make accommodations to the average. But you throw in one or two ill-reared problem students, or more euphemistically called special ed students, and you can bring everybody's education to a screeching halt. A bully starting a fight in class, an emotionally unstable child interrupting class, the class clown disinterested in his studies and more obsessed with garnering attention, the single teenage mom whose drama overshadows history class. The list could go on, but the key drawback of the compulsory aspect of the Prussian education model is some children just should not be in school. And if you force them to attend, they are guaranteed to lessen the quality of education for everyone else. Problems arising from problem or special ed students, however, can be mitigated through the use of AP classes, special ed programs, and allowing for different tracks in education. But special education and the forcing of unfit children into school further belies the true motive of the education system. For while you would think teachers and staff would just love to get rid of all the problem students, or at least quarantine them, the truth is the education system loves problem students because of one simple thing: money. While one competent teacher can educate 100, even 200 well-behaved children, it takes an army of employees to control, let alone educate, one problem student. Educational therapists, counselors, special ed teachers, special ed assistants, etc. An entire potpourri of ancillary staff is needed to babysit what amounts to nothing more than an inadequately disciplined, misbehaving child. And so while your students may not like being thrown in with the inmates, and the teachers certainly do not enjoy it either, it doesn't matter. There's a ton of money in having children unfit for school in the education system, and money trumps education, especially the education of abnormally intelligent children.
Curse of the High IQ is available on Amazon.com in both paperback and Kindle formats. It is also available in audio at Audible.com.